Hey everybody, MC82 here with another review. Today we are looking at the PCS Collectibles Shredder, Krang, Bebop and Rocksteady. And it's been a while since we've had the Ninja Turtles released in this line. It's been a couple of years. But PCS Collectibles has finally released the bad boys of the TMNT universe. As always, before we take a look at these, I want to go into the box art for a bit. This is the same design that they used for the Turtles, and while I appreciate that they went for a bit of an old school style, emulating the original packaging in the Playmates line, the brick pattern here is just a little bit too clean, and the color palette is, well, too colorful. It's missing the rough, gritty look of the original packaging, and there's not a lot going on otherwise. Why not go all out like the original packaging and add some cool artwork of the featured character, instead of just a stock photo of what you already see in the box? With a box of this size, there just seems to be a lot of wasted artistic opportunities. Thankfully, my complaints about the box art are largely throwaway, because once you get these guys out of the box, I think you'll be very pleased with how they turned out. They're very impressive and they display very well. I do have a few issues with them, and we'll get into that as we go along in this review, but my initial impressions are extremely positive. Let's start with Bebop and Rocksteady. They're packing heat with their standard blasters and each have a Technodrome base. I think they could have distinguished these two a little bit more. I wish they would have given Rocksteady a different style of blaster. He's also missing his helmet, and you can usually find him armed with a little bit more of an assault rifle in the series. And while they do call the Technodrome their home, most of the time in the cartoon and in games, they're spent topside in the city. So I would have preferred a base that was more a reflection of that. The fact that Bebop and Rocksteady belong to the streets, so to speak. Beyond these minor gripes, I love these two. I think their sculpts resemble their appearances post-season 1 of the series, when the characters were kind of short, stocky, and overall less menacing. Rocksteady in particular is given a wide-eyed screwball look that perfectly captures what he and Bebop were known for as big troublemakers. These guys don't have the benefit of sharp lines like NECA uses to define their features, but the toon look is still achieved through light and medium color tones and shading. You're not going to get deep contrast and extreme levels of detail here, and it's not really needed. However, what is needed is a little bit more quality control in the paint apps. There are several areas where the paint looks uneven, rough, and washed out. And from a standard viewing distance, these issues are largely mitigated for both of them, but Bebop in particular could benefit from added color saturation, as he's a bit muted. Despite the issues, I'm still left with a big smile on my face looking at these two. Their sculpt and pose seems like it was taken straight out of the cartoon, and despite the odd choice for a base, they go well with the rest of the villains. And speaking of the rest of the villains, let's take a look at Shredder, who is striking an unmistakable supervillain pose, looking like he's ripped straight out of the 80s cartoon intro. I have no issues with his sculpt or pose, as it's an excellent looking statue. Now, I like his rooftop base for a couple of reasons. It's a nice throwback to the original battle with the Turtles in the comics, and unlike his fellow villains, he thematically works with the original Turtle statues, as they also were on rooftop bases. Shredder's color palette works better here than it does on his henchmen. The grays are given enough depth and shadow to accentuate his musculature and the folds in his clothing. And his undersuit is given a touch of highlight to prevent it from looking like a large swath of black. Of course, none of this really matters if you don't get the most important aspects of Shredder right, and that would be his armor. Thankfully, his blades and gauntlets are given a slight metallic finish, and it reflects very well when lit. There are still some areas that look a little bit flat, but I think for the price point, it's acceptable overall. Finally, what villain is complete without his cape? Shredder looks like he's in the middle of throwing back his cape, and it's an excellent design choice, as the sculpt and shading give the cape a dynamic appearance and lots of movement. Last but certainly not least, it's Krang. And I'm going to cut right to it. I think that not only is this the highlight of this wave, but I think he is among the best looking and most accurate Krang android bodies that's ever been released. I know there have been others that are far more expensive and have extra details that weren't present in the cartoon, and I certainly haven't forgotten NECA's Toon version, but this guy is an imposing figure that outclasses them all, unless you're all about articulation, and then you probably would want the other versions. Similar to Bebop and Rocksteady, Krang has a Technodrome floor base, which is very appropriate for him. Krang is also the only figure that comes out of the box without his base attached. I'm not sure if the others can be detached, and I'd rather not stress test it. Since Krang can be displayed alone, this allows for a surprising amount of versatility. Unlike NECA's version that has extremely weak ankles, this guy can stand up well without his base. His size has varied over time in the series and in the game, so you could easily pose him with the NECA Toon Turtles if you're looking to show off his molecular amplification circuit. Krang's sculpt and pose look awesome. His android body actually looks intimidating, fit, and more like a human, similar to Season 1 of the series. But like many of the characters in subsequent series, or seasons I should say, his appearance began to resemble more of a potato with limbs, so I'm glad that PCS Collectibles strayed away from that. Krang himself retains his maniacal facial expression. The paint apps are clean all around and appropriately vibrant and colorful, and Krang himself probably could have used a few more veins in his skin, but the sculpt and shading definitely gives his skin the lumpy texture that he's known for. One issue that I have, and you probably won't have this if you get this guy, my Krang came with a bit of his paint chipped above his eye. It's a little disappointing to say the least, but perhaps I can spin it by saying that it looks like he had extra detail added to his skin. That's really the best I could do, guys. It's just disappointing. I really wish that they would work on their QC issues.
Real quick, let's go over the measurements. Rocksteady stands at about 8 3/4 inches. Krang stands at about 12 inches. Shredder is about 10 3/4 inches. And finally, Bebop stands at 9.5 inches.
I really think PCS Collectibles has done a great job with this villain wave. They're going to make a fantastic addition to your Ninja Turtle collection, and I would give this wave an 8 out of 10. Sadly, I don't know what else is on the horizon for this line. Do we get statues like April and Casey? Or perhaps a foot soldier? Maybe General Trag or Granitor? Unlike the other Ninja Turtle lines, these are not hard to obtain, which means you can still find the original Turtles in stores and online to this day. I'm not sure if that's a testament to PCS Collectibles' distribution model, or if they just aren't selling as well. Regardless, I think this line should be in every Ninja Turtle fan's collection. They have a relatively small footprint for your display, but they're large enough to stand out, and at an affordable price of roughly $40 to $50, sometimes on sale for as low as $25, it's a no-brainer. I think you guys should pick them up. As always, guys, appreciate that you stuck around to the end of the review. If you like this video, hit that like button, leave a comment, perhaps consider subscribing, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks a lot.